You know who made it.
I don't know if you heard about this, but Pocket Casts are now in the hands of Automatic, which is the same company that makes WordPress and a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Right?
Would not have guessed that.
No.
Private equity roll-up. Yeah, roll-ups.
Basically, go check out Automatic because they've acquired a lot of stuff I think a lot of people would be surprised about. But yeah, so they've introduced kind of a new feature, I guess, which is ads. And they will put banner ads in the application. And the thing was once upon a time, it was a one-time purchase app, and the developer who originally developed it I don't remember if it was like a limited edition thing or if it was just how it was, but you paid a certain amount of money. I don't remember honestly how much it was. I don't remember it being that expensive, but I think it was really expensive back in the day for an app. It was like $20 or $30 or something, which was unheard of in the 99-cent fart app days. And you got it free for life. All features. There's some other features I don't really use. There's some cloud storage that you can upload audio to if you don't have a feed or something. But I don't know. They have a good search, and I love the app. So recently, people who had been on that plan or account status or whatever you want to call it, and some other a couple other ones that weren't supposed to ever get ads are getting ads now. And so there's kind of a big blow up on their forum. I guess for the record, I haven't seen any ads. I also block ads across my network levels. So like, good luck. But
yeah,
maybe we talk about that at some point. But yes, but other people have, and I thought it was a really interesting thing. There was like a Hacker News thread even that came up, and the owners of Automatic tuned in, the CEO, and was saying that it was a bug and trying to, frankly, I think play it off because I think this was a big enough issue where it made press a lot of different places in tech world. And the forum, their own support forum, was blowing up with people being like, I've emailed you, I've talked to your support. They're like, you just got to pay us money. And it seems like one of those really easy things to catch. Like, oh, we have all these support people now asking us, why are we showing them ads when they paid?
Yeah.
And then the CEO kind of backpedaled and said, oh, this was a mistake. It was a bug. And so I thought it was interesting because, this happens when you do development. I think one, from a product choice, putting ads in your podcast player in order to not charge money, I think is a really weird monetization strategy. Yeah,
these are banner visual ads, right? Like, Spotify plays in-roll ad or in podcast ad or audio ads, but this is just like a picture or something.
Yeah, on the I've seen some screenshots and it's weird. It's not.
Yeah.
Like from a product perspective, I think there's two real like one, it's weird, and two, no one's really spending time in the app, right? You are going to go flick on your podcast, you're going to listen, you're going to either go do something else or it's in your pocket. Probably you're not sitting there like watching the pod.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
Right.
Most people are listening. So it's kind of a weird choice. And then secondarily, I get it. Like you want to try to get some revenue, but also like the model doesn't work. And I know nobody wants to pay for podcasting apps, which is why I shut mine down. But there's other ways that you can do this, right? You can have tiers and features. And I think the biggest, and maybe this because I'm just a product person, but the biggest thing that I was reading and hearing from people was like, everybody's like, well, you could just get rid of ads. I think it's pretty cheap. It's like $5 a year, $10 a year. It's pretty inexpensive. But they're like, I don't want the features that you're offering, right? Like getting rid of ads is a feature. And then there's all this other stuff that people, didn't resonate with. I think one of the things is you get higher cloud storage. I'm the same. I'm like, I don't see any value in that. Like, give me a million terabytes of audio storage for my podcast. And I think for people listening, like you download the podcast to your phone. If it's in a feed, the upload your own was like if you had like podcasts that didn't sync or audio you wanted to listen to, I guess, in like audiobook or something. Cool. I'm sure somebody uses it, but it's not like a killer feature for me or I guess any other customers. And then they pissed a lot of people off. And so,
from an engineering perspective, just as a bit of insight, one of the things that can happen, especially during an acquisition, is if you have a legacy licensing thing, no one really cares if you get acquired, and like they don't migrate that stuff over. Right? So I imagine there could have been something where the original creator did have like this buy it once and you're on the list, and then they let go of the list when they got acquired.
I think Automatics owned it for 2 years. So like, I hear you and I don't disagree. But yeah, that's what I think really ground a lot of people too, is that, yeah, if it was like, they just acquired it and like happened, sure. And or people just don't care, because a lot of times like the license agreements will get changed or modified, or they're between you and the owner. And when that changes,
not the new entity.
I think this just reinforces like you don't own your software. I don't know if I like that world.
It's the software developers are pushing it towards that you don't own your software kind of thing, and this is like the idea behind how software has changed and business models around software.
Yeah,
it's a big thing around games, particularly, but software in general.
A lot of open source software just dies, right? Someone will write something, they're really passionate about it, they'll move on, or their needs are met with something else, and then the abandonware kind of problem or shareware idea. A lot of people older are listening. Probably.
Oh, shareware! Wow, yeah, I haven't heard that in a while either.
And so I get software models are hard. Everything is now SaaS, right? You pay a monthly fee and you get all the updates, quote unquote, for free, and you don't have to like. Even games and stuff like you were mentioning have gone to like monthly, the battle pass or something like that is your kind of monthly subscription.
Drip content model.
Yeah. And I'm getting sick of this. And so when the software changes hands like that, I think you're best to like do what you can to honor that. Cause like those, and they even said on Hacker News, like there are like thousands of people. Great. Why piss us off? I wouldn't be talking about this right now if you didn't put ads into your product and then extort people to get money from them is really what it is. Like, sure. Okay. But you bought a thing that's multiple owners in. They couldn't make it go, I guess. And so now you are, so it's like, what you're buying in that regard. And like, they were kind of playing it off as this like, service to the community kind of thing. And it's like your service to the community if you're just going to extort people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about that. But like the product reasoning behind this is so bad. And it's such a cash grabby feel thing that like, they could have just kept everybody in this like legacy tier, added a bunch of features that were compelling to upgrade. I probably would have upgraded. I have no problem supporting people, creators, software developers, companies, if they're putting out a good product. And if the SaaS model is delivering me constant value, it's fine. Most of this stuff isn't, though. It's about dollar extraction. We talk about this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like, I've done a lot of software work. I've worked in the kind of pay per year licensing
subscription.
I've worked in enterprise licensing, seat-based licensing, where you pay, a little bit and then you pay per user. SaaS is kind of in that, but it's typically a monthly subscription.
Yeah.
I've worked, I don't actually think I've ever shipped anything that was
buy once
single time pay.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And then, of course, I've worked in a lot of stuff where you like ship stuff. It's just part of like a bigger ecosystem. Then there's no money exchange. But we talked about this a little bit too. But I'm building a podcast post production software. Well, it's built. We maybe talk about that too. But it is built. I was going to release it. Maybe you should be interesting to talk about. But I'll make my point. When it comes to pricing, I've decided to price it as a pay per use. So you upload your podcast. It could be any audio. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to brand it specifically for podcasts or just any audio. It'll do a lot of the magical post-production stuff you need to do. So like audio leveling and compression. It's like you listen to the podcast. I should maybe do an example where there's no post-production and then there's post-production with like the same clip or something. So people can see,
run the pipeline and see what it looks like.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of little tweaky that, a lot of people who are doing this professionally or have done audio for a long time will know how to do. I listen to so many podcasts where I'm just like, the raw audio out your mic is not acceptable in 2025. And I really wish you would figure that out. And some of the editing software has ways to do this, but what I wanted was to have the ability for people to edit in whatever they want and then get a consistent post-production. And then there's a bunch of AI stuff that is now required in life with like chapter titles and that kind of stuff. And there's other ways to do this. Some of the editing software will do it. What I found in my own podcasting pursuits is that not all the software works well and not all of it is consistent. And then every platform is different. And so Spotify will not read the MP3 enclosure. So most of the audio files are done in MP3 or MP4 if you're doing video. Mm-hmm. That's a specification. So the audio itself is not what you're actually listening to. You're listening to they call a container, which is a wrapper, which has a bunch of other different information about what you're listening to. Chapters are one of those. Mm-hmm. But Spotify chooses not to look at the enclosure information for chapters.
Mm. You have to submit it separately?
Spotify do better. Right? I don't know, man. Like, I don't get it. I think they probably have their own pipeline if you host on Spotify, and it probably does it as part of it. And everyone else can get because they don't care about you.
Yeah. So when you do submit something to Spotify, how do you submit chapter?
So you have to put it in the description.
Ah, okay.
Isn't that dumb?
And then the description, do they parse that? And then, because there's some, if you look at some audio in Spotify, there are breakouts in like the full audio section where you can see the section jumps.
Yep. Great
but
question.
There are also some that's just a single audio bar.
Yep. I would say, taking a step back, there is a description for the container as part of the MP3 spec. They don't look at that either.
Right.
In your podcast feed, it's run by a technology called RSS. Some people have heard about that a long time ago. Some people haven't. But it basically
it's still around.
Oh, I know. All the podcasts run on it. Yeah. But it's basically a structured format to put in information into basically a text feed. Yeah. Yep. And then it's machine readable so the computers can figure it out. And so they'll read the description in the RSS feed. So now you're duplicating it. So and then some other companies won't look at the description. They only look at the enclosure, which I think is frankly the right way. It's the sane way to do it.
Right.
It's how the spec is written. And so I found this out, and I didn't want to go back and do it all. Maybe I will now. I have Seeks, but so I wanted to just make this easy for podcasters to just be like, edit however you want to edit in whatever you want to edit. Run it through this post-production piece, get good audio, get the chapters, descriptions, all this kind of finicky stuff that really, really matters, especially for producibility and discoverability, but also a lot of people just don't do. And so I priced it in I priced it as a run once, pay once. So you upload your thing, you hit the button, it does the magic, and then you're done.
Yeah, and you pay for that, right?
Yeah, and then we were talking earlier, we talked through some of the enhancements that I was going to do after I released, and I decided to just release after. And then I am thinking through like subscription to just make it easier for people who use it a lot. So like if my like target audience for this is like people who probably do like a monthly or like a fortnightly podcast or like a hobbyist kind of infrequent. But if you're doing weekly podcasts, I don't really have pricing finalized right now. It's like a couple bucks. It's like $8 a month. That feels high to me. There's value there for sure. But I also think like coming up with some sort of a monthly model where it's more of an a la carte or run as many as you want works a little bit better for that. But yeah, so I think the run once and it's done and you own it, right? Like it's pretty simple. I'm talking about open source. There's some stuff I should probably open source. I'm thinking about it. I have to work through.
Yeah, you have to think about what the value of open sourcing it is.
Because a lot of it's proprietary. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and then it helps I think it helps my competitors. But I want to get back to the community. So I don't know, maybe that'd be a good discussion for you and me to do later. Maybe we can even talk through like how you want to open source stuff.
Open source. Yeah, that's a very good topic because it does tie in closely with what we're talking about around, or at least we're talking around, is the idea of business models in software.
Yeah.
And when you go open source, like different business models around open source is very difficult. And you've seen Red Hat's a very good example of starting off with something like open source Linux and then building a business model around it. you can't really do it very effectively. So it's not a problem.
Red Hat. Oh, oof, okay. Now we're doing it.
Mm. I
Yeah,
triggered. I woke the beast.
I know, right? Well, I used to really like Red Hat because it was an enterprise supported software. So it was like your Windows, or it was really, well, Novell, I guess, but Windows server.
Mhm.
And because it was open source, they basically had a version of Red Hat that was free to use. You just didn't get support from them, right? So if you wanted to run it in an enterprise environment and you needed to call up Red Hat for help, or if you ran into hardware bugginess back in the day, that's a big problem. It's gotten a lot better. You still run into some weird stuff if you're doing like high performance, but for the most part, everything just kind of works now. They'd help you with that. They would certify hardware, and then you, as part of the certification, you buy the license, that kind of stuff. They would screw around with doing things like rate limiting speeds on things for like unlock tiers and like that. But the thing I really liked about it was super stable at the time. And that was a lot of people at the time too. You know, you'd run Red Hat and you'd have a laptop or something and it would have crappy support for years because they wouldn't support it. Whereas other distributions would, like Debian would do that. But the problem, I've had a lot of problems with like Debian and stuff back in the day too, because it wouldn't support what I needed it to. Again, the servers project's a great example. Is like, I had a Mac, we were a Mac household, and then I had this server and I was trying to figure out Linux and stuff. And like, I couldn't get anything to run on it other than Red Hat. I don't know why. It was something with the way they did the kernel. I ended up, I think, getting SUSE to work, but I had to recompile the kernel and like do all this crazy. And then every time it would update the kernel, I'd have to go through and recompile, and then something would break. And then, you know, I'd have to like, you know, is it just a nightmare? Some people like that. I was like, I want the damn thing to work so I can like learn how to build a web server and learn how to do all this that I was reading about in like magazines and online. But and then they kind of got rid of that. I think they kept it for a while, but it kind of went away. And then CentOS was like a fork of that. And so it was effectively the entirety of the Red Hat Linux, and then it became Red Hat Enterprise Linux. But it was all de-Red Hatted. So they would basically just find, replace. They would just like basically find, replace Red Hat and then replace CentOS.
CentOS, yeah.
So that went around and around for a while. There was a lot of like legal, and that was part of the argument with the business model. They're like, there's so many people are running production enterprise workloads on your stuff that they're not paying us for. That one I kind of get, because it was literally identical other than some words. And then over time, things kind of diverged a little bit, but for the most part, it was Red Hat compatible, and you could, any kind of software that was purpose built for Red Hat, you could run on CentOS. And the big thing with that was that Red Hat would then start to obsolete.
Yeah.
And so people would have to go to it because they couldn't, the servers wouldn't run the latest version.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had to run the latest version, but you also had to run your business, and you spent millions of dollars developing the software that required specific weird things that they would do that they no longer supported.
Yeah, it leads into planned obsolescence.
Yeah, like, IBM
as you keep
Z-Series has a huge business built around that. Sun, that was one of Sun Microsystems' big claim to fame, that they supported everything basically forever. Like, it was very rare for them to actually obsolete stuff. And when they did, it was like over multiple years typically. And that was a big deal from like Solaris 9 to Solaris 10. I remember that a lot of like 16-bit stuff got weird, and some of the 32-bit stuff got a little weird because they were really trying to push 64. They're trying to go to 128-bit CPUs. That was a whole thing. But
wow.
I know, right? Yeah, it was a wild place. But the business model thing with the open source, though, that's the risk you take if you don't have a good license too, or that someone writes a better product for you, like Nextcloud and OwnCloud, right? Two kind of at-home cloud softwares had the same kind of thing, where one of them forked and they wrote what I would say is probably a better version of the software with less scummy terms of service, and became a very big profitable company.
Yeah. This is very biased coming from an engineer's perspective, but I'm not convinced that we have solved the idea of software business models.
No, not
Like
at all.
going from like back in the day when you only had to do a one-time purchase was simplified. I think Adobe is a good example of this, where you used to just buy like that line of Adobe for that year, like Adobe Photoshop, whatever, 20 or whatever year it was. And then they come out with a new version next year, and you could choose to buy that one and take all the features that came with it, or just stick with the one you had because it was good enough.
Yep.
And then they moved to this Creative Cloud, which shifted their business model towards a subscription-based thing. I don't know if that was because that was where the world was headed and they needed to do that to compete as a company or not.
No,
but if you look at it from like if you look at it from an engineering or a product perspective, even if you try and make the justification for, okay, now we're moving to charging people per month, you have to start thinking about what features can you deliver to justify the extra X amount of money that you're charging them for. So even from like a best scenario perspective, you have to start building more things. And as you start building more things, people are like, back to your point, I don't need that feature. That doesn't help me. It doesn't, it's not something I would ever use. So you're caught in this weird cycle of just kind of trying to do stuff just for the sake of doing stuff.
And that's most software, right?
Exactly.
Blow is real. If your software, like the Seeks product, is going to do post-production,
do what you need to do and just
that's
be done
forever, right? I'm not going to build an editor. I'm not going to do all this other stuff. There's plenty of great editors out there. I don't care. I want to do one thing really, really, really well. If anything, I would work on integrations to make it easier to move your stuff around. Mm-hmm. If the demand is there, that's a maybe. But I would say that with the Adobe analogy, though, when they went to Creative Cloud, before that, each version of Photoshop or Illustrator, or as they were acquiring everything too, when it became Adobe Suite, you would get substantial material updates in that new version. And for a lot of people, it was required. Like you just couldn't work in the industry without having that compatibility layer. Also, though, for a lot of people, it's fine. I know people who are still running CS6 on an old machine because it does exactly what they need. So I would say in the early days, like they were doing it right, though, where they were adding a bunch of features. They'd make stuff faster, it would improve, and you paid for that improvement or not. And when it comes to speed, pay to play, right? But also, if you can't pay to play, or you can wait 20 minutes for the render to happen because, you know,
that's how long it takes.
That's also your choice. As a business owner, I love reoccurring revenue. I love monthly revenue. That's why SaaS is so attractive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to provide value. And like we were kind of talking about this, I think the other week too, where every app now has like a chat social thing. Like, why does my, podcast player need to be social? Yeah, I like to share stuff with people. I'm a social person, but like, do I really need to be able to DM my bestie in my podcasting app? No. And that takes time, that takes energy, that takes effort, that takes engineering resources. And there's a weird thing where we've gotten away from, it's become this like dopamine hit to get a new thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like the new feature, and it has to, at a certain point, you have to make a new shiny. And I don't know if I've ever showed Seeks live. If you're clever, you can find it. It's not hidden. It's just not average because it's not ready to scale quite yet. But interface is very primitive. Right?
I was going to say, I'm sure you shared the website before.
Interface is really primitive. I think it's ugly, to be honest. And if I was in a professional environment, maybe wouldn't ship it. Does what it needs to.
Yeah.
Right. And my audience is people who are doing podcasting either as a living or as like a kind of a prosumer hobby, and they don't want to spend all their time with stupid bullshit pop-ups and crap that a lot of consumer apps have to try to keep you in it. It's like they want to get in and get out as fast as they can and get the most value they can. And I've talked about this too. I use my own software, and it's saved me about an hour per episode on post-production.
Yeah.
And I love it because I just hit it, walk away, and then I come back from coffee or whatever, a couple of minutes, it's done. And then I just post it.
Yeah.
But I want to see us return to those business models. Because like I love open source. The world as it is would not exist without it. But there's no business model in free. As soon as the person who maintains it goes away or loses interest, or the community, like it completely dies and you can't depend on it.
Yeah, I mean the engineering perspective here that I'd offer that might be contributing to the shift in the business model is back in the day when you did have a one-time install thing, you hosted that software, so you
Yeah.
own the
Yep.
computer that you would install the program on, and you didn't need internet connectivity because it all worked and it was in your laptop.
Yep.
Now with
A
the
lot
way
harder to do
that
too.
software exactly now that's sure now software is done in a cloud environment where you're not the company usually sometimes maybe is not hosting all that. They're
Yeah.
paying a cloud provider, and that costs stuff. So to make up for those costs, you need some sort of model where
Yeah.
because your platform renting is a quote unquote subscription per month basis,
But does
you
it
need
need to be that
come up with
way?
something.
A
Yeah,
lot of
exactly.
the
I think
cloud
that's the argument that
software
we're
that
making.
I use, does my task management software really need to be in the cloud, or can it sit on a database on my computer?
And I think that's kind of what we're trying to get at here is this we've slowly adapted to the norm of say software development, and we haven't thought about what is it supposed to be doing and
Yeah.
why do we need it to do it this way.
And I talk to a lot of, especially younger developers, they have no idea that you don't need AWS to build an app. And it's sad. It's so sad for me. Like I had a conversation a few months ago where we were talking about more infrastructure-y stuff and like how packets move around. And they, I don't know, I'm a software engineer. And I'm like, yeah, but you should know how like network layers work, my dude. Like, come on, right? Like, I get if you don't know every single thing about it, but we were talking about, I think, IP versus protocol security. And I was like, you should know that. You know, a junior engineer, probably not, but anyone who's like a senior or higher, like you should at least know the words to be like, oh yeah, I think I kind of know it. I need to like look it up or like read about it. Right. But I don't expect everyone to have like working knowledge in their head about everything, but you need to have enough knowledge to know that it's important and enough to be able to like have a somewhat intelligent conversation about a thing that's really critical to the project we're working on.
Yeah. I think you could tie that back to this whole thing with curiosity that we keep going back to.
Yep.
I think there's a new era of people who, because of the amount of information out there, go, I'm a software engineer. I don't know network layer details, and I don't have the curiosity to go figure that out.
I would also argue it's hard, right? Networking
Yes,
in 2025 is still really, really, really hard. It's gotten so much better for the average person. They don't even know what we're talking about. But it actually makes me mad because I was trying to help a friend troubleshoot their internet. Yeah. And it was basically like turn it on and off. That was it. That's all you could do. There was no logs. There was no frames. Like I had to like snoop the network with a packet sniffer to try to figure out what the hell was going on. Because I don't remember something about like, it was like broadcast DNS, like MDNS for protocol or for content discovery wasn't working or something, or it was working in some devices and not others. And it seemed like it was probably like some kind of firewalling problem, but like it was just all idiot buttons. It was like firewall on, firewall off. And it's like,
you can't dig into it. I think over time, networking has become more complicated because back in the day, I used to work as a network engineer. You would have physical hardware that would do specific features. Like you had a physical firewall that if something was plugged into it, it went through the firewall.
I remember when packet shaping firewalls were the rage. Like,
exactly. Yeah. And now it's all software defined, and like you have logic kind of rerouting things. And I will admit that it's gotten much more complicated, but the fundamentals are still the same.
Yeah, no. And that's what and I think part of the problem was like a loose wire.
Yeah. Sometimes that could still be the case.
Yeah, but it was plugged in, but it just wasn't seated properly. So like literally plugging it, unplugging it, plugging it back in, turning it on and off does help. But like, I expect some more dials and switches. That's one of the reasons I'm thinking about moving off Apple again, because it's gotten so lobotomized that every time I do run into an issue, it's like reinstall the computer. Okay, well that didn't do it. Now what? This should be a solvable problem I'm having. But the software, like, and then the age of AI, this gets even more complicated. We were talking a little bit before we started recording around like AI business models. Like I hate token charging. I think it's so dumb. Yeah. And the reason I think it's dumb is because nobody knows what the token is, and nobody knows how many tokens they need to do their thing.
Yeah.
Great. We've multiple
there's no
levels of
standardization.
abstraction.
And there's no standardization
No.
for how to tokenize something either.
No.
So the way that OpenAI does it is not quite exactly the same way that Google will do it, nor is it the same way Anthropic will do it.
100%.
Yeah.
And even like the OpenAI tokenizer, a lot of other companies use, is pretty good for, in asterisks, for what most people are using language models for. It's pretty good. It's open source-ish. And so they'll use it. You go in like the pricing and you get 50 tokens for $8, and we've abstracted. It reminds me of like Carnival Games where you'd have to get tickets. You pay $20, you get 8 tickets, and then things are like 3 tickets or 2 tickets. You have no way to discern the value
way to realize,
of what you're actually buying because it's ticket based. You have a ticket value, but the ticket is an abstraction. That's where we're at. I understand why people do this because a lot of AI companies charge for tokens. And so you probably have some formula that gives you some like MBA token translation layer, which is still way more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But it's effectively consumption-based pricing.
100%.
Or they're trying to make it consumption-based pricing, right? Whereas a SaaS model isn't. Yes, you're consuming resources, but your $20 a month is $20 a month, right? You're not $20 a month 1 month and then you use 25 tokens, so now it's $50 or $80, right? And I think it's making way more difficult to try to predict in a business world. So now, as an AI skeptic, I'll put my AI skeptic hat on.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to claim the AI skeptic title. I was like, what?
I'm really skeptical. We've talked about this. He who shall not be named is a terrible human being and is doing more damage to tech and AI every day, even though they're making billions of dollars for their company.
I'm curious to know, for those who know you, how many he who shall not be named can be on the list.
There's a lot of them.
People.
I'll be more specific. Not the people who make Gemini or Claude.
Yeah. There you go.
American-based AI company.
Yeah.
Now there's probably 2 people are thinking about. I don't like either one of them, but there is.
I was going to say that there are 2. I know the 2 that you're talking about too.
But I hate this abstraction, but as an AI skeptic, so you want me to buy a program that we don't know what it's going to do. It's non-deterministic. And now you want me to pay a non-determined price for it. Who thought this was a good idea? From a customer, like, I want to sell you something. What you're going to get from the output of the program is variable and the cost is variable. Please sign here. Every business loves that, right? Like, what are we thinking? And again, I know why, but I'd be interested in your take.
I'm going to present a contrarian view just for the sake of a thought exercise. I do wonder if the consumption-based pricing is just weird to us because we haven't quite adapted to it yet in this type of scenario. There are so many things that we buy on a single transaction basis or a repeated fixed cost basis that we don't quite understand what consumption-based pricing looks like.
Sure we do.
Especially on a fast... Yeah, I know we do with utility systems.
Everyone hates it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there was like a push for...
Or a terabyte...
Yeah, data, count. Right, exactly. You're right. And if you think about it from like a purely, I don't want to call it fair, but you pay for what you use, right? If you use more, you pay more. If you use less, you pay less. Like conceptually, that seems to make sense. This idea of consumption-based pricing, especially in the realm for the technology space where people are a little bit more logical, I feel like they would be more apt to think that that makes sense. Okay. You use more tokens, you pay, or you use more compute, you pay for the compute. You use less compute, you pay for the compute.
But that's not what's happening. They fooled you.
Yeah. Well, okay, dig deeper.
Right. So it'd be like getting gas, right? So it's liters or gallons. I'm going to use gallons because that's what we use here in the good old USA. Your consumption-based pricing is not actually consumption because the tokenizer, which is what most of this stuff is predicated on, is variable and a black box. What is a token? Is it 8 characters? Is it 16 characters? Is it 12 words? Is it 5 concepts? Because the way a token actually works is it's like a vectorization of whatever you're trying to do. And so it's an abstraction mapped to abstractions. And so the same idea would be like you go get a gallon of gas in your car, it's a gallon of gas. So I can say I get 20 miles to a gallon of gas. I can drive 20 miles on that gallon of gas. I can go to another gas station and they're going to charge me $4 for the same gallon of gas that the other station is going to charge me $3.80 for. Maybe there's some additives, there's some little differences here and there, but a gallon is a gallon. Tokenization is saying, A gallon could be 128 ounces. It could be 100 ounces. It could be 50 ounces. It could be 300 ounces. And Andrew's gallon and Nathan's gallon are going to be different. I want to rant more now because you made me think of something else. So like input tokens are impossible to figure out. Not impossible. It's really hard.
That one's easier to figure out, right?
The output
you can just run through a tokenizer. Yeah, exactly. The input tokens, you can, right. Yes,
is what you were talking about, which is like an attempt to
yes. That's a good distinction.
Recoup on the cost of running something. And like all these AI companies are hemorrhaging money. So I get it. It's hard to price this stuff. But at the same time, I do feel like this is like an engineering driven pricing model and not.
Who do you think started all these companies for AI?
Right? I know, but if you want mass adoption, you have to have predictability in business. I know a lot of folks who have experimented with AI, kind of like what you were saying earlier, and they run up a huge bill. And then they jettison the project, or they're like, we can't use this because we blew our entire month's budget for technology in a couple hours. And like, cool, we learned, but we need to be able to put parameters around it. And yeah, you can put spend caps and all this, but like the reality is it adds a bunch of complexity to use this technology that people already don't really quite understand how to use.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of ideas on how to fix this, but I'm not going to give them up for free to the companies who are
man who shall not be named. Reach out to Andrew for a business plan.
Yeah, he can get like, I won't work for that company. But other companies, if you're Anthropic or Google, maybe, but no, not the other one.
I'll bring it to another space that I've been thinking a lot about because I'm here in Puerto Rico looking at energy stuff. I think all this does become a proxy for getting consistent energy to be able to run these types of things.
It's electrons.
Like when you think of, yeah, exactly. At the end of the day. So it's like when you go all the way up the ladder or go all the way down the turtles, it's the electron turtle. Yeah. So it's how much can they get energy for, and then you can have a more stable pricing model once you understand exactly how much you can actually accommodate.
That's interesting because the bowels of this stuff are immense, right? You have storage, you have bandwidth, you have actual compute to make the thing happen. Mm-hmm. You have memory, you have all that, the memory context, which follows like you or your chat session, but isn't always loaded up. It's like the inbox problem for email service providers. Mm-hmm. You don't want to spool up all of those old messages into memory because it's really expensive. But
cold versus hot storage.
And a lot of the AI infrastructure is starting to get there. People are starting to rediscover some of these ideas. It's hard to scale out of that stuff too, and the speed thing is the worst because all this stuff's really easy to do in quotes, but making it performant so that if I decide to pull up my chat interface right now and type something, it actually works and doesn't sit there for 30 seconds or a minute or an hour.
Near instant there. Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think those are the problems I want to be hearing focused on and fixed. I think that's where the competitive advantage is going to really start to lie. Like, yes, you need to continue frontier model development and iteration, but the gap that I'm really seeing right now is like understanding what are the pieces of this that are the most important to the person or the customer or whatever. And like, as a customer of this stuff, I don't see it. It's still it feels very much like an engineering science experiment. And like, I'm not disparaging, like I build this stuff, I work on it, I like it, but putting in my product hat, voice of the customer, everyone I talk to is kind of just hands in the air, right? They don't get it. They are working with it, and then something changes, or then all of a sudden the outputs go to hell. Part of it is non-deterministic, so it just could be the ether of the universe. It could also just be like somebody changed something and didn't really tell you, right?
Yeah.
So it's all I hear in the news is it's going to take my job and it's going to destroy humanity. And I'm like, the thing can't even do basic math or language interpretation. Like maybe we dial that back a little bit, but it feels so much smoke and mirrors to actual core things that I think a lot of people would really appreciate. Like I know OpenAI just announced their thought police assistant thing that will think for you about you. I don't even want to name it. I'm sure people have heard about it by the time this comes out. Like I think it came out today. So we're recording on Friday, the 26th of September for folks. This will probably be out Saturday sometime. But who's the product? I said all of these companies are subsidizing the use. Google's play is to get you deeper into the Google ecosystem and provide value. I frankly think they have the best business model. So they're I think probably assuming this stuff will get cheaper over time. Moore's law will kick in, and it's a good investment for their perspective. Anthropic's got some problems, right? Because they're subsidizing the cost and they don't have a Google lock-in there. They seem to be trying to really partner with a lot of different companies. Like Apple just took in Claude Code and like Xcode and made a native thing. I think you can use Claude now with Siri along with OpenAI in the new OS. Yeah. I could be wrong on that. I'm pretty confident that was real. So Siri will like get stumped and then reach out to ChatGPT or Claude if you give it permission to do that. And I think it asks you every time.
She'll phone a friend.
Yeah. OpenAI is also kind of screwed because they were the first to really break it out and they're losing market share. And the differentiation, I think, between Anthropic and OpenAI is that Anthropic is they're the Claude people. They're trying to make a solid product. They're really doubling in on code, which I think is probably the right decision to go. It's the quote unquote easiest thing to be able to do because there's a bunch of information available to train on, and it's pretty easy to test code. It either works or it doesn't. And then there's a lot of nuances around, does it work the way that we intended to every time? That's a whole conversation. But getting functional, runnable code is actually pretty straightforward once you get the basics. OpenAI, though, they have a doublespeak going on, and they're trying a lot of different things. They're building out a lot of different variations of product. But their core product really seems to be suck up as much information about our users as we can. And I'm very uncomfortable with that because they're not transparent about it. They're incentivizing you to the memory functions to give them all this knowledge. They build this profile about you so that then they can make the product better for you, in quotes. But they're creating the world's biggest advertising thing. And this is not a service where, like Facebook, you're sharing what you did for lunch or where beach you went to or whatever your life is. This is your like deepest, darkest thoughts and emotions. And people are using this for therapy, as we talked about, friendship. They're building deep psychological, social psycho profiles of you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing preventing them from selling it. And I heard he who shall not be named talk about this a little bit. And, it's a shame that we don't have better laws on this. Well, if only you had $1 billion company and a platform with the president to go talk to him about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Secondly, though, they were asked, are you able to sell this information? It sounds like a terrible idea was the gist of it. Oh, I don't think so. I'll have to get back to you on that. As we just talked about with Pocket Cast, a bunch of words on an agreement are meaningless. Especially seemingly in 2025, anyone can just seemingly override anything they want. Laws matter and congressional inquiry matter, but until there's privacy laws that really dictate how can they use this information, but also how can they train? So if they say we can't use the information for marketing, but they train an Andrew model that knows Andrew far better than anyone else, maybe even Andrew does, and then they sell access to that model, or they sell access to OpenAI's ad network, where they have all of these, they call them digital twins of us. Mm-hmm. What does that world look like? And that sounds a little science fiction-y. It's real. They could do that tomorrow. They're probably doing it today. I don't know that for a fact. And it's a baseless accusation, but I wouldn't put it past the people at all. I have zero trust with them because they keep marketing all of this stuff to people who don't know any better, who don't understand the doublespeak. And they're just sucking in all this information. And it's the trust me bro argument. That's bullshit. I don't trust you, bro. You shouldn't trust you, bro.
I think that's probably a good philosophy to hold in general. Is don't trust me, bro, for any big tech company. But to play devil's advocate, you can probably argue, or I can argue at least, that for a lot of the let me backtrack a little bit. I think you're totally absolutely right. The application layer is the key for the adoption of AI, and I see this a lot in innovative technologies just across the board. New things come out, but they don't fully get adopted until someone solved that application layer. So blockchain, for instance, lots of big talk about blockchain, and there was never an application, never killer app. So it never quite took off.
There were for some people, but it's still such a small niche.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why AI is so different, is that the application layer is so broad. And I think there are smaller companies filling that gap. So the way I see it is like the larger foundation models are providing the base layer for a lot of these smaller companies that are more nimble to go and vertically target a sector and then build something out that works that way. That being said, going back to this idea of AI trying to build this digital twin of individuals, on one hand, yes, they could go sell that data, make you a digital marketing billboard or whatever. On the other hand, at least when I've explored something like education, I can argue that the best kind of education is hyper-personalized education. So education that is catered towards you, that really understands how you think, such I can deliver content so that you understand it.
100%.
So there's a world where OpenAI is building this kind of digital twin of you so that in the future they can help you be the best person that you can be, kind of thing.
And that's what they say.
Yeah, exactly. It's
and as we just said,
rainbows and butterflies world. Yeah. It's a rainbows and butterflies world.
I would love for you to be able to do that and consent, number one, opt into it and be like, I actually want that.
Agreed.
And two, have it legally protected with very clear laws about where my information can and cannot be used. And a law doesn't mean your information's not going to get leaked to the world or someone's not going to hack it. Of course. But at least there's some forcibly backed agreement that you can trust a little bit. And then I would say third, it needs to be done in a way and engineered and architected in a way that is privacy first. Right. And like the way that Apple did the digital enclave for fingerprint identification, I think is a wonderful example of this, where a lot of fingerprint readers literally just take like a picture of your finger, or there's, you have fingerprints and shape and size and all this kind of stuff. And there's algorithms that will run to kind of take a approximation of what that is in a unique way that other people wouldn't be able to fake. But you can reverse engineer that proximity to get that person's fingerprint theoretically. Apple went through a painstaking amount of work when the original fingerprint reader was developed, to create a secure enclave within there. It's a physical chip. It had only memory. And then it had read-only memory coming out. And the way that it works is basically the software says, I need to verify that the person's fingerprint is correct. Send it to the enclave. The enclave does whatever the magic it does, and it says yes. That's how you get your thumbprint unlock for your app or whatever. And as far as I understand, and I think the security community kind of agrees with this, is like there's no way to like break into that. At least nobody's discovered. Every time there's a vulnerability, they're really good to patch it. And there's no way to reverse engineer that. And it's really, 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 really hard to do, folks. I used to love, I have a love-hate relationship with Apple, but I really appreciated Apple's privacy first. You're in control. That fingerprint doesn't go to the cloud. There's no way your fingerprint can get hacked if Apple servers get hacked or any other server gets hacked in the world. Same with your Face ID. You can't hack the Face ID from the cloud. Like, could you theoretically exploit it out of the chip on your phone? Maybe. Probably not. Like, most people kind of agree, but in limited time, energy, and money, sure, it's probably possible. It's never going to get remotely exploited. That's cool. That is the world I want to see. OpenAI, they're not doing anything I've seen to give me any inkling of hope that there's some sort of privacy first digital twin model thing that they would be doing.
Yeah.
And so they again, the trust me, bro, listen to me, bro, and all the words I'm saying, bro. Okay, fine. But we, I think as a society, really need to go back to looking at actions. Like, words are cheap. Everyone talks. Everyone has jazz hands. Everything is the greatest ever. Okay, fine, whatever, feel how you want. But we have to observe what people are actually doing, because that's that's what's real now. Talk isn't real anymore. I will promise you something, and nobody does it anymore. Just agreements. I bought a subscription to an app 10 years ago, and it's nullified now. Right?
Yeah. I can get behind that.
So we need to go back to actions. Actions are louder than words, and we need to observe them, and we need to hold people accountable. If you say you're the best privacy first company, then show us what you're doing. All right. Happy Friday.
Yes. Take care.
Take care.
You can find us at 3reate.com. It's like the word create, but with a 3 instead of the C. As always, we encourage you to listen, watch, do. We'll see you next time. You can support this podcast at patreon.com/3reate or at ko-fi.com/3reate. Thanks for listening.